Hey Washington Shellfish Questers, Blake here. I'm headed out to one of my favorite places to harvest mussels, Dinosaur Island. Oh wait, actually I think that's Hope Island. My mistake. My channel's been around for quite a few years, you know, and I cover all these different shell fisheries, and I really do love mussels, but I've only done one video on mussels. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to expand on that and maybe explain why that is too. Well, while I got some time to kill heading out, let's talk about limits in Washington State. So you can have 10 pounds of mussels. So you want to bring some kind of scale. As far as the seasons go in Washington on the outer coast, it's usually November through March is the season there, a very long season, basically the fall and winter months. And in Puget Sound, opposed to the outer coast, they tend to be open when clams are open, not always. Sometimes there'll be a little closure on mussels when other clams are open. But you need to check each beach specifically. Mussels are extremely tasty. For some shellfish connoisseurs, it's their absolute favorite. You know, for me, they're somewhere in the middle. You can use, they're very versatile. That's one thing I love about them. Pastas is a big use for them. Soups. I mean, you can just have a kettle of mussels, just like a kettle of steamers too, and that's a really good way to have them. See the raccoon right there? Just sitting there eating a clam or a mussel. I think it's probably a clam. Oh, that's so cool. You know, they seem like a nuisance when they're in your trash. But seeing them in their element like that, it's just awesome. Plenty of subsistence for them here on Hope Island when they eat the shellfish like this. All right, we're here. I said earlier that I don't harvest many mussels, and that's because there's just not many in my area. Hope Island's only open in the month of May, so I'm out here pretty much in my window for the local area. And what I'm doing is inspecting the trees because mussels love a rocky habitat, so you might think wood. That's weird, Blake. But what happens is there's a lot of commercial growers in the South Sound. You know, they grow them off of lines. So two things. One, more of them some of them actually will grow on the trees. They're usually not the biggest specimens. But two, what I'm really looking for is a line that's washed up in the storm, because I found that will happen on this island where there's just a big storm event or something, and you'll find this rope of mussels. And if you find one of those, ooh, you're sitting pretty. So this is kind of what I'm looking for, but as you can see, this one is bare. You can see what I mean, how you could just get them off the trees. So these are raccoons have just had a buffet, is what these are, because they're so low hanging here. Oh yeah, look at this. This is a line. So look at this, down, down, down. Then again, the raccoons got them because it's so low. So really, I'm hoping to find one maybe a little higher, even though raccoons can't climb. All right, I haven't been able to find any good mussel ropes this year. I guess it can be kind of hit or miss. This will be the first year that I haven't if I don't. This tree here, though, is a good prospect if I don't. Like these mussels here, they're fine. A little barnacle-y, but they'll eat just fine, these mussels here. So right here would be my limit. I'll keep looking, but that would do. All right, so I talked about the seasons on the coast. It's basically November to March. In Puget Sound, usually mussels is open when clams is open, but always use the Shellview map, the Department of Health / Fish and Wildlife Shellview map to see if they're safe for harvest for both pollution events, the season, and marine biotoxins. So something to know about mussels is they don't have any kind of filter in them. Well, they filter feed, but what I mean is they don't have like a liver, so they bioaccumulate. So that's a big reason you don't want to eat them off of docks or stuff like that, or anywhere where there's a big pollution source. So, you know, I could go to Butt Inlet and there's just mussels everywhere growing off the dock, but you do not want to eat those. It's closed for shellfish. But beyond that, it's one that I'd really use your common sense on. Now, you might notice that these mussels seem a little small, or maybe to you they do, I don't know. To me, they're perfect. So there's basically 3 types of mussels in wild. Well, there's probably more than 3, but there's 3 that kind of could be edible. So we have a blue mussel, then we have a Mediterranean blue, and that's probably what these are, and they hybridize because commercial shellfishers, that's what they tend to import, is the Mediterranean blues. And they have exactly the same function in the ecosystem, so everything I've read said there's no like kind of damage there from the hybridization or just the competition with the native blue mussels. And then the really big ones, so those get about 3 inches, both of those species. Then the real big ones, the big honkers, the 6 inchers, those are the California mussel, which I know I don't know if you can harvest those, but I don't eat them myself. So I just am going for blue mussels here. The raccoons on this beach are just so dang cool. Big family of them in there, mowing down on shellfish in the water. 4 of them over there. It's so neat just to see them in their natural habitat opposed to in your trash can, you know? Woo, that is a big gooey duck hole. Holy smokes. Alright, I guess the base of that tree it is. Now on the coast, you can just be lousy with mussels, and there are some places in Puget Sound too. If it's a nice rocky area, you know, and they're established, I mean, you can just scrape off one of those big rocks and get your 10-pound limit, like no problem. Obviously here in the South Sound, where it's like extremely muddy, you gotta kind of look for cheats like those mussel ropes, or just an area like this where the commercial growers have sort of indirectly seeded the area, even on the woody debris. All right, to harvest the mussels, you just use your hands, or at least I do. Now this is called a chew bag for crabbing. You basically put loose crab bait in here, but it's really good for mussel harvest. This one's brand new, so it's not even stinky. Then I do have an oyster shucking glove, just because these ones are so dang barnacly that I don't want to knuck up my knuckles. Well, I might need to rethink my hand method. This is hard to get these off. They're really embedded in the tree trunk here. You want to grab them by their beards, it's called. That's basically the roots of them. And we're going to scrub those off later when we get home and clean them up for either cooking or for freezing. All right, look at that. I'd say it's about 5 pounds of mussels. It's the next day now. Like a lot of shellfish, mussels will keep in the fridge just fine. I just recommend putting a damp paper towel over them. Just getting a little wet with sink water. Don't want it dripping. Just damp. And all those mussels are just fine, just like I harvested them yesterday. Before I eat these mussels, I gotta clean them. So the first thing I'm gonna do is fill up a pot full of tap water and put some salt in it, maybe about a teaspoon of salt or so. You can just use fresh water as well. I often do that. And I've had people give me comments on my channel about that, maybe killing them. You only have them in there for 20 minutes. It absolutely does not kill them. So, but I do like to have maybe like a teaspoon of salt in there. And then as I clean them off, I will put them in there one by one as I'm cleaning them. Now, as far as the cleaning goes, I'm going to put my mussels in a colander and give them a rinse. As you can see, they're all covered still with their beards and barnacles and marine life. The rinse won't do much besides remove this grime, you know, sediment, that sort of thing. Alright, let's break one off here. So if the mussel, you know, is open, you definitely want to get rid of that mussel because it's dead. So we'll be looking for that as we go through these. So I like to take like a paring knife, and this is the beard here. You want to get that beard off. I just go like that with my thumb. If you pull, I think I got about all of it. If there's anything left, you can usually get it with your hand there. There you go. And then with the barnacles, that's kind of to your preference, so they sort of don't matter. I just take a dull knife and you just scrape them off like that. I'm just making these for me. If I was trying to keep up with the Joneses, I'd totally scrape the heck out of them. But for me, that's fine. The beard is gone. The barnacles are pretty much almost gone. Good enough. So I'm going to throw them in my bath. My saltwater bath, that is. And I'm going to want that to be in there for at least 20 minutes so it can purge. Well, this is going to be my life for the next about 40 minutes, so I have to just put on a podcast while I'm cleaning. So here's one that just was eaten before I got to it. There you go. Yeah, you can see why the ones that grow on the lines, the big mussel raft lines, are so much more preferred. They're so much cleaner than the wild ones like this that are growing on trees and things. It definitely saves a lot of time. But again, it depends what you're trying to do. If you're just eating them yourself and you're not trying to be impressive to your dinner guests or something, then that's plenty good right there. I was talking about using a paring knife or pliers to get these beards off. I'm finding it's really best on these ones just to do it by hand. Sometimes the beards are a little tougher than that. I don't know if it's because they were growing off of that tree or what, but yeah, they're just pulling right out. Now that beard does attach to the mussel itself, so if you don't get rid of the beard, you're going to get beard in your mouth when you go to actually eat the mussels. That's why it's so important. So I don't know if you can tell, but this one's floating up to the surface. That means it's likely dead. So I will throw it out just to be safe. Yeah. All right, I just finished up here. There's my bowl of dead mussels and barnacles and beards. There's the almost finished product. Gonna give one final rinse off there. Not as clean as, you know, restaurant quality, but plenty clean for me. Alright, let's cook some of these mussels up. About 2 cups of water in there, gonna bring that to a boil. Alright, there's the boil. Gonna put in some salt, some Old Bay. I don't know how much, let's say 2 tablespoons. I just smashed up a clove of garlic, let's add that to the party. And a couple Turkish bay leaves. There we go. And who could forget the guest of honor? Alright, we're gonna let that come back up to a boil. It won't take long for them mussels to open and they'll be done. Alright, it's been 3 minutes. Let's take a look-see. Oh yeah, they're opening up pretty nicely. Of course, if any don't open up, those are the ones you want to toss out. Yeah, I'll give it another 2 minutes, I'll say. Took it a while to get back up to boiling. Alright, there we go. It's been more like 5 minutes. Really, you only need 3. When they open like that, they're done. I just kind of overdid them a bit there. Alright, so these are really hot. If you want them to stop cooking, throw them in an ice bath. So use a little bit of juice in there of the Old Bay and the mussel juice itself. I over-obeyed it. I over-Old-Bayed it a little bit. So I'm gonna give them a rinse. Let me try that again. So there you go. Rinsed off, that's excellent. I was a little worried there with that first one, because all I can taste is Old Bay, which I like Old Bay seasoning so much is usually not a problem, but yeah, giving them a rinse like that, it does rinse off rinse out the nectar, you know, but these mussels taste so good on their own with that Old Bay absorbed into the flesh. So right there, that's all you need. Mussels need not be complicated, you know. I mean, you see them in restaurants and they come out so pretty and that sort of a thing, but they don't need to be any more complicated than cooking a crab, because basically what I just did was my recipe for cooking a crab. Oh, this one looks real good. Look at that, got the sauce in there too. Yeah. So, you know, I think I said 2 tablespoons of Old Bay there. I think I go with 1. And then you wouldn't have to rinse them out like that. But those are excellent. So mussels are really easy to freeze compared to a lot of shellfish. So some people take them all out of the shell, some people don't. The important thing is just to cook them. Just cook them, then you can freeze them either not in the shell or in the shell. You know, I've seen online they'll freeze from 3 to 4 months. I've definitely froze them for more like 6 months and they've been just fine. I like to make a lot of chowders and seafood fettuccinis and stuff like that. And like in a seafood gumbo, I've used mussels in the winter. So I harvested these in late May, and I'll definitely would use them in like November, December for making soups and things of that nature, you know, out of the freezer. So they freeze really well, and that's a big strength of the mussels, and why, you know, getting 5 to 10 pounds of them, even if you're not going to eat them that day, can be a real smart move. Well, there you go. I hope you learned something about harvesting mussels in Washington. Wish I had more spots for you. But like I say, it's either rocks or around commercial facilities, or maybe some old stumps. But at any rate, they are very good. I feel like very underappreciated since we do have such a bounty of shellfish here in Washington State, but these are great. So thanks so much. See you next time on Washington Shellfish Quest.